have to search for the best, the brightest, and, the most committed guys. Just can't wait to get going.
I'm calling for you.
Jets. Here comes the commissioner with the pick.
Welcome to the 2020 Jets Post-Pick Show, presented by Verizon.
The New York Jets select Makai Becton.
Wow. In the run game, it's an avalanche.
Holy cow.
Oh, my word. Somebody that low, that fast, is 364 pounds.
To see a human being that big move the way he moves, it's unbelievable.
That is Sam Darnold's new best friend, 6'7", 364-pound tackle out of Louisville, Makai Becton. And welcome to the Post-Pick Show presented by Verizon. I'm Ethan Greenberg, joined alongside three people who are plugged into the New York Jets. That, of course, being Eric Allen, the voice of the Jets, Bob Wischusen, and Anthony Beck. So, again, Makai Becton, the newest member of the Green and White. And Joe Douglas said he was going to protect Sam Darnold, and I think this suffices, EA.
6'7", 364 pounds. Guys, I was really fascinated by the way the board fell tonight. And when we were going over our mock drafts here early in the process, we thought Makai Becton would be a perfect fit for the New York Jets. And Shoes, after addressing the interior offensive line predominantly in free agency, the one guy Joe Douglas got tackle position was George Fant, who's played both left and right tackle. He comes back here in his first draft as general manager of the New York Jets, and he gets perhaps one of the prospects with the highest ceiling in the entire draft.
Yeah, there are three things I think that jump out at me about this. A, we weren't sure if the Jets were going to get a tackle at all. To have their choice of a couple of tackles by the time they got to their pick was a luxury. And it sounds like Makai Becton was rated as high, if not higher, than any of the other three possible choices. Obviously, he was rated in their world higher than Tristan Wirfs because they had the choice between Becton and Wirfs. Mm-hmm. I think what they liked about Becton as compared to Wirfs, Wirfs is projected by some as maybe a guard. Could play tackle, physical freak. But Makai Becton is a pure offensive tackle. He's not playing anywhere at that size with that arm length and that reach other than tackle. So he's a mountain of a man that's going to protect Sam Darnold. Obviously, ESPN was showing highlights of him dunking basketballs and running the 40 at the combine and pushing pickup trucks. He's has an amazing athleticism ceiling. But I think the thing that I like about him most is the fact that he is playing his pure position. This was not going to be, let's kind of, in a way, fit a square peg in a round hole because we need a tackle. He's a tackle.
Anthony, I just want to get your thoughts on this because you would come on the podcast earlier this week, and you said that you're friendly with a lot of Louisville coaches who coach Makai Becton and know him very well. So what did they have to say about the newest Jet?
Yeah, I'll read exactly what they text me. A mountain of a man, we know that, right? 6'7", 350-plus pounds, moves extremely well for a man his size, is best in one-on-one scenarios in the run and the pass game, and he will finish. Guys, listen, I think we talked about this really for the last couple of weeks, but to have an opportunity to get one of these tackles, the top four guys, and to really get your choice, being it was rated the top guy on the Jets board, you got to feel great if you're Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas has shown us now that what's important to him is the guys on the inside, the guys that start things on the offensive line, protecting your quarterback. This will give you an instant success rate in pass protection and the run game. And really, he's a tackle and a half, man. Bob said it. This guy is humongous. The couple things that I really love about him, the feet are outstanding for a guy that big. I mean, it's just hard to find players that are as flexible as he is at that size. You usually see a lot of stiffness, guys that can't really bend. I mean, you look right there, he can get underneath the shoulder pads of a DN, and he launches himself into him and drives him. I think the most important thing, too, is he has a desire to be great. If you watch the clips of him, I watched the story they did as they followed him to Louisville as a college player. He's intense. You see him finish down the field, whether it's a pass catch. You see him running down, trying to get a block. This guy explodes into the defender. Regardless, he dominates the line of scrimmage. And when's the last time you saw a draft pick that played tackle that had as many highlight film blocks and pancakes as this guy? So, listen, I'm fired up, man. This is going to be exciting. Where he'll be on the line. Obviously, you said he's a pure tackle, which is great. He's got humongous hands, guys. He gets his paws on you. It's lights out. It really doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a Pro Bowler defensive end in the NFL or, hopefully not a younger player, because he's going to come out guns a-blazing. I really like this pick, and it's going to be fun to watch this season with the Jets.
Greens, I love what Becton said at the Combine.
Yeah,
we went over there in Indianapolis. I just tweeted this out right now. Let's think about these quotes for a second. You wouldn't go wrong picking me. The tape shows it. It shows that I finish almost every play. It's as simple as that. And New York is tough. New York is just tough. I love New York. I think he's a perfect fit for the New York area, and they're going to love this kid.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. He's a nasty player, like Anthony said, in terms of blocking. And I really like what you said, Anthony, when he gets your paws on you, lights out. And if you're watching this show, the post-pick show presented by Verizon, make sure to ask some questions. We'll be taking fan questions. But, Bob, where did you think the Jets could have gone? And what did you think about the way that really the board fell out in front of the Jets, picks 1 through 10? Were you surprised at all that they had their selection of tackle?
Yeah, I was surprised that there was not another pick that fell on the offensive tackle side ahead of them. The one that surprised me the most was the Cardinals with Isaiah Simmons. And I think Isaiah Simmons is one of those guys, we talked about it for a month, that you may have him so prohibitively high on your board that even if you have a need at a different spot, the Cardinals definitely also had a need at tackle, that you might get there and say, oh, wait a minute, we think this guy's the second or third best player in the draft. He's available at 8. We just have to go get him. So the way it fell, I think we all expected the Giants to take a tackle. I don't know that we had any idea which one they would take, and Andrew Thomas may have surprised some. The fact that the Chargers did take Herbert helped a lot, because that meant that, if he hadn't been taken by the Chargers, I don't know where else he would have been taken. Certainly not by any of the teams, I think, maybe by the Jaguars, but he also might have slid out of the top 10. The Jets weren't taking him, so that maybe would have eaten up a tackle spot. So the fact that the Cardinals, I thought, mild surprise, didn't take a tackle. You knew Cleveland was probably going to take one, and the Jets had their pick of a couple of guys. And I know I was getting it all over my Twitter feed, the Jet fans that wanted them to take a wide receiver. They want Jerry Jeudy. They want CeeDee Lamb, whoever. Joe Douglas has approached this offseason, free agency, and now this draft, exactly the way that he said all along he would. He wants to build a brick wall in front of his franchise quarterback. He looked at the talent drop-off after these 4 tackles. I think he got the one he rated the highest on his own board, so that's a bonus at number 11. And now you are going to potentially get guys to fall into the second and third round at wide receiver that many other years would be a first-round or high second-round pick. So he looked at the depth of that position, looked at the drop-off after the top 4 tackles at that position, and he made the right pick. I mean, I think this is a very sound pick and just matches up with how he's approached the entire offseason.
And I think you make a great point in terms of the depth of receiver. Right now, the Jets pick at 48, and surely there seems like it'll play out where the Jets will be able to grab a receiver if they so choose. But EA, we talked about how Makai Becton can obviously help Sam Darnold, but how about somebody that he's blocking for in Le'Veon Bell? I'm sure he's jumping for joy wherever he is right now, too.
I think Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell are probably the 2 guys on this roster who are most excited about the offseason. you think about, to Shoes' point, what Douglas has done. He emphasized wrapping his arms around Sam Darnold, but this is all going to help Le'Veon Bell as well, because oftentimes last year, fellas, he was making all his yards after contact, and he's still very productive as a receiver out of the backfield, a great blocker himself. But think about the offensive line now if you go left to right. If the Jets do indeed put Becton at left tackle, a prototypical left tackle, 6'7", 364 pounds. You can have him at left tackle. You re-sign Alex Lewis in the offseason. Connor McGovern and Jonathan Harrison are there at that center position. McGovern was the pivot for the Denver Broncos the last couple years. He's in his 20s. A lot of people believe he is on his upside, on the upswing of his NFL career. You still have Brian Winters on this roster, potentially at right guard, and you brought in George Fant, who can play left or right tackle. So maybe with Becton in play here, Anthony, you put Fant, you pencil him in over on the right side.
Yeah, and don't forget, guys, Juma Doga. I mean, did anybody improve as well as he did throughout the season? He got a lot of experience on the field. I mean, you're talking about an offensive line now that not only are you looking at starters, but you have some serious depth up front. And, that's going to be key going into the season. I think we've seen it the last couple of years, in particular the Jets. Guys go down up front, center, guard, injuries. You never know what's going to happen. Be able to plug and play and have guys in place to have those backups and feel good about it. Put you in a good spot as far as, just your game plan week to week. Adam Gase, I'm sure last year, with the lack of depth at the offensive line, trying to, piece together an offensive game plan that worked, but yet still you have to take into account who's playing up front and so many injuries and guys getting beat up throughout the year. It's tough to have that consistency. And then also, with Darnold going down with the sickness during the season as well. So when he came back, you really felt like you had to do some things to protect your quarterback. So, listen, there's a lot going on, obviously, with the rest of this draft for this football team. They're in play in the second round with 2 third-round picks as well to really address some serious needs. And like Bob said, this is a deep wide receiver core. Guys are getting pushed down because of the fact that there's a lot of strength at some other positions, and a lot of receivers are going to go in this draft. But I think you're still going to have a stockpile of guys that could quite honestly come into your team right now as a second rounder and really push to be a starter. And just for firsthand knowledge, Brashad Perryman, who Jets fans probably aren't quite bought into yet, he was one of the best receivers in the NFL the last 5 games of the year. Saw him play, watched him play down here in Tampa. The guy's a true number one. So if he continues to play like he did and, work in the offseason and still has that chip on his shoulder, which I do believe he does, because he's a former first-round guy that is, been banged up, been injured, finally got his shot. He got a chance to come to Tampa, got to play some starting role duty with Mike Evans going down, and he really shined. And I think, the Buccaneers knew they couldn't sign him, bring him back, which they would have loved to. And I think the Jets got a really good deal to bring him in, one of those prove-it deals, but yet still give him enough money where he's going to go out there and want to shine and continue to do good things. So there's a lot on the table right now moving forward outside of the Becton pick, which I love, that Jets fans can be excited about.
Yeah, AB, I don't think they're done, right, Ethan? I mean, the Jets have a pick in the second round, 2 picks in the third round, and a pick in the fourth round. Why do we think they're not taking another offensive lineman at some point with those 3 picks or those 4 picks in the next 3 rounds? If Joe Douglas sticks to his word, and I think he probably will, he's going to look for more quality and more depth. I would be surprised almost if by the time we got to Saturday afternoon, they don't have another guard that maybe they're drafting that they think could come, or maybe even another tackle that they think could come in and compete for a starting job with the group they've already got.
So in the pre-draft show hosted by Bob Wischusen and EA, we actually spoke to Brian Baldinger, who broke down Makai Becton. So this is what Makai Becton has to offer on the field.
Makai Becton, number 73 for Louisville, is the left tackle. He's the biggest player in the draft. 6'8", 364 pounds, and he takes his man at Syracuse right off the field there and dumps him into the Louisville bench. But he's just turned 21 years old. and he's a great athlete. He stays on his feet. You have to orbit the sun to get around him. And he is just getting started. I think that he could be a dominant player in this league because of his size and his ability to move that size and move the weight the way that he can. Powerful in the run game, hard to run around him in the passing game.
My favorite quote out of that breakdown, you have to orbit the sun to get around him. That is the Jets' new tackle, Makai Becton, 6'7", 364 pounds. Also Sam Darnold's new best friend. And like you said, Bob, the Jets back at it with the 48th pick currently. They also have 68 and 79 in the third round. So a busy day tomorrow. And actually, Bob, you and EA and Anthony Becht all in the pre-draft show tomorrow, breaking down what the Jets have to look ahead to in day 2 of the NFL draft. And of course, this was the post-pick show, day 1 of the NFL draft. Makai Becton, the newest Jet. Bob, AB, and EA, who's no longer with us right now because he's doing other things. Just want to thank you guys, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.